Alright, what you're about to watch is me trying to fly my camera rocket with a F20 motor, and I'm trying to fly my Instago2 action camera. Very cool potential, by the way. If you watch carefully in the video, you'll see that cool potential. Well, the first time I flew it, the camera battery died about 9 seconds after I started it. I didn't realize that when I stuffed this camera in the rocket, it was actually clicking the camera. The entire front of this camera is a button. So yeah, you click that button and the whole camera turns on. I didn't realize that when I stuffed it into the rocket, I made a custom mount for the rocket, that I was activating the camera. And so the previous day, while I was finishing the assembly of this rocket, the camera was running, and I didn't know it. And the battery case was already dead. And I didn't know that either. I guess it has a slow self-discharge rate when it's sitting around. And I plugged it in for a little bit, but I guess that wasn't enough to give it any kind of real charge. Oh well. So I didn't get any video of that flight. It flew perfectly. The second time I flew it, which is what you're going to see in this video, the camera was fully charged, and I just got the lift off. That's because the motor experienced a catastrophic failure, and it literally blew apart the rocket. Now, interestingly enough, the camera is why the rocket blew apart. It's kind of weird. First of all, the Kato of the motor was my fault. I did not correctly assemble the motor. It was an LMR or LMS motor, so you have to partially assemble it. I did not screw the delay grain cap on the back, the front closure, all the way in. That allowed the flame front to get up above the insulator where it doesn't belong. And that allowed it to go boom, overpressurize from the top. It actually cracked the motor casing and violently ejected forward. If you look at the pictures and watch the video, you'll see smoke coming out of the top. That's the ejection. That's the not ejection gas. The ejection charge never fired because it blew the motor apart before that could happen. That is gases from the propellant burning, moving into the inside of the rocket and pushing the nose cone off early. That wasn't a drag separation. That was a pressurization of the vessel pushing the nose cone off. And then once that nose cone came off, it just dangled on the side, and you were still okay until the motor blew. And when the motor blew, normally that would just forcefully eject all your laundry, your parachutes and stuff. But in my case, I had a camera mount that actually passes through the side of the body, and so a portion of that camera mount protrudes inside the rocket. Well, that yellow cap was coming out of this like a cannon, like literally like a fired cannon, and it came up and it hit the bottom of that camera mount. It actually broke a part of the plastic, not on the camera, but of the mount, and that broke the camera mount away from the rocket. Here's a piece of it right here, and that's when the video goes black and you hear the well, that's the camera inside the mount going as it flies away a couple hundred feet. Thankfully, somebody found it. Camera's fine. Camera works okay, so they are pretty durable. Although the camera was inside the shell of the mount, so that helped protect it a little bit. And that, of course, when that got ripped off from the inside, that did that to the rocket. So that wasn't from hitting the ground. That was actually from the motor blowing apart and a piece of that motor casing hitting the camera mount, tearing it out of the rocket and ripping the rocket in half in midair. So it's kind of exciting. I'll add some still clips at the end or before of the I'll do before. I'll add some still pictures of the first flight and the second flight where you can see the smoke coming out early. But all the 3D printed parts held up fine. So I got 3D printed lugs, 3D printed center rings, 3D printed motor retention, 3D printed nose cone, all held up just fine. So I couldn't fly it again simply because I didn't have the parts. I did not bring extra tubes with me since it was only a weekend event and I only had 4 rockets to fly, so I figured I'd be fine. Yeah, I should have brought 2 tubes. I could have built a whole another one of these if I had to. Because I had my 3D printer with me, so if any of these 3D printers parts, like the camera mount, I could have printed them on site. I had a solar panel on the roof and a battery inside, and I could print all day long. So you live and learn. I won't make that mistake a second time. Hopefully I can get to a launch sooner rather than later and try it again, because watch carefully in the video. I want you to go on YouTube and type in, onboard camera rocket. And you're going to see a bunch of different videos. Just pick one and watch it. Most of them you're going to see the video rotates. And because the camera is mounted to the rocket, the rocket appears to stay still while the ground and everything around it appears to spin. This spins a little bit less just because it's a tube-finned rocket. It's one of the reasons I choose tube-finned rockets. They tend to fly straighter. They tend to be more docile. They're a little softer. They don't, spin really fast. You have to build a rocket really cleanly to not have a spin. Tube fins, a lot easier to do. And you want a little bit of roll. Ideally, you want 2 rotations on the boost, because that gives you a variety of video. This camera, however, has a 2880 by 2880 sensor. So it's a square sensor at 2880 pixels both directions, which means the 2560 by 1440, 16 by 9 video that you record can be rotated inside of that 2880 by 2880 frame, which means this camera has rotational stability. It can lock a horizon or a fixed position. So when you watch the video, especially the slowdown, it's easier to see. You'll notice that the ground isn't rotating. The rocket is rotating because the camera internally stabilizes the video, which is freaking awesome for rockets. So if you want a camera for rockets, trust me, you want this camera. Once you realize what this thing can do for rocketry, it's going to be a shut up and take my money kind of scenario. They're like $300. They're not expensive. Not for the kind of quality you get. So that's it. Enjoy the videos. Let me know what you think.
One. Wow.